Ho ho, I can't wait to talk about this game because this game is a special place in my heart. What if I told you that there was a Spider-Verse video game that already kind of happened before the Spider-Verse concept really took off in terms of media? Well, this game is called Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions that came out for the 7th generation consoles and PC all the way back in 2010. So the game starts off with the Amazing Spider-Man universe, and there's three other counterparts, and we'll talk about each respective Spider-Verse character, I should say, as we go along. So the game starts out with the Amazing Spider-Man, like I said before, where the combat is more so more web-based for the Amazing Spider-Man. That's kind of how you sort of differentiate Amazing Spider-Man from the other three, or his attacks are more web-based, especially when you get into the heavy attacks, like that uppercut, I guess right there, for instance. There's also spider emblems. You kind of get that to gain health and XP. We'll get into that a little bit later. And you obviously, usual web swinging. You kind of get the idea, right? When it comes to Spider-Man traversal, you get the whole idea, right? So the game starts out with Spider-Man fighting Mysterio in some kind of museum late at night, and as Mysterio is trying to steal some kind of powerful tablet, I guess, and Spider-Man shatters it. Of course, you know how Spider-Man is always breaking things, and that kind of revolves around this tablet being shattered and just spreading across the entire multiverse, which brings in Madam Web, who is usually never see in Spider-Man games typically, so that's kind of different in of itself. That kind of sets up the game. There are 14 main missions, including the prologue, which is really a tutorial, and the final mission, which is fighting Mysterio, which of course since he was the big baddies of sorts for this game, there you go. So as you can see here, combat is more web-based for the Amazing Spider-Man, and I'd say it's a pretty good start to how you start playing the game. Now let's get into the next one. Now we got Spider-Man Noir, which this is a really good take on Spider-Man because it's set in the 1930s, like where the combat and gameplay of this game is more stealth-based, much like Batman Arkham series. I mean Arkham Asylum, like essentially set the blueprint for how superhero games should be, in my opinion. So it was very genius of Beanox to take inspiration from that when designing Spider-Man Noir, because how it plays, it's mostly stealth. There are sections like where you're actually going face to face with enemies, so there are parts. So it's not totally stealth, but most of it is, which makes sense given the lore of Spider-Man Noir. It makes complete sense. In this mission, you're hunting down Hammerhead, who has gotten his hands on one of the shards of the tablet and is trying to deliver it to his boss, Norman Osborn. A really different take on Norman, if you ask me, because in most cases he's not a crime boss. So very, very interesting for Spider-Man lore. So I really like the noir universe. Like it's really interesting. It definitely sticks out a lot in my opinion. It's also nice that Spider-Man Noir was one of the characters in the Spider-Verse movies. So it makes perfect sense. So I guess in a way, Noir was part of the Spider-Verse idea from the get-go. If you really think about it. Also, for boss battles, some of them have actually done something that you don't see in Spider-Man games. I don't think we ever will ever again. Well, what I mean, it's this. That's right. You're seeing first-person combat in a Spider-Man game, in a superhero game. Who would have freaking thought, huh? I guess the whole third-person, first-person is not entirely separate to Disney IP because the whole Indiana Jones debacle that's going on right now. But yeah, interesting take for a Spider-Man game to have first-person. It's certainly jarring, but interesting. It's only for maybe a few boss battles in the game, so it's not like you see it much. So anyway, back to Spider-Man Noir gameplay, and as you can see here, I just got detected. You definitely want to avoid that because if you're staying out in the open for too long, you can get shredded by when a whole bunch of enemies are shooting at you. You could get pretty destroyed if you're not careful. But yeah, very curious. Now let's move on to Spider-Man 2099. As you can see here, Spider-Man 2099 I say is the fastest. His combat is more so speed in form of anything when it's traversal, combat, you name it. Heck, even has his own ability, like where you can slow down time. As you can see by the second bar, below him. I love the aesthetic of just like this futuristic version of Spider-Man. So 2099 I'd say is very underrated. It was nice to see him in the second Spider-Verse movie, but certainly as an quote unquote, I guess, villain because of the whole thing with Miles and all that. But still, though, I mean, Miles isn't not Miles, but Miguel is not a bad Spider-Man by any means. It was certainly interesting how they portrayed him in that movie, but that's a whole different topic though. And as you can see it, when you're dealing with heavy enemies, you can do special takedowns. So as you can see here, the public eye, which is like essentially the police, basically in 2099's universe, really. You probably guessed it, is funded by the Alchemax, which is essentially the Oscorp of 2099. But as you can see, you can actually use the accelerated vision to make enemies' missiles essentially kill themselves or their teammates, which is pretty cool. But as you can see here, 2099 is definitely the fastest out of the three. So not agility, but I guess speed. There you go. That would be the proper word. I can't I just started there for a minute, but making fun of myself because I couldn't think of the word. But as you can see here, Scorpion. This is the second mission in 2099. So each spider character has 3 missions per se, and then you play as all 4 of them in the final battle with Mysterio. Now let's into actual. Not only is the gameplay serviceable, there's actual upgrades. So of course, like you would see, there's 180 challenges in the game, and you complete these challenges to earn more XP, which you can use to. They're called Spire Essence, which is your XP, which you can use to buy even more upgrades. Whether it's combat, characters, you can even unlock alternate costumes by doing that. And there's a lot of upgrades. There's tons of upgrades you can do. The challenge system is called the Web of Destiny. So there's both combat and character upgrades. Characters like health, you can even increase the meters for the accelerated vision, and the other one, which is rather on the final Spider-Man that we'll get to in a minute. So a lot of choices for upgrades. There's over 180 challenges. Ever since I'm showing this footage, I've unlocked more challenges, so it's more than that. But yeah, you kind of get the general idea with upgrades, right? So there you go. Now let's get into the final character, which is uh, Ultimate Spider-Man from, like in the Ultimate Spider-Man video game. But this time, to differentiate him from the Amazing Spider-Man, they give Ultimate Spider-Man the black suit. So with Activision kind of using the black suit a lot in their games, so it kind of makes sense, especially come off of their game before this, when it comes to Spider-Man, was Web of Shadows. So it makes perfect sense that they would use the black suit again. And really, like Black Suit was the symbiotes are like so popular in Marvel nowadays, so it's kind of insane, like ridiculous, man. So many characters have used the Black Suit, it's kind of insane. So it makes perfect sense for, I guess, some way for Activision slash Marvel to use it in a game right after Web Show. So there you go. And that whole thing I just showed you was something called Rage, which is the new kind of how 29 had the accelerated. Rage is what Spider-Man in the Ultimate Universe has. So basically, there you go. I got stuck there. There we go. Once we got past that, figured that out. Now again, Rage mode. There, like where you just go ham on enemies, you can clear a room really quickly. So it's definitely, your crowd control. Like, it's really what it is. And you can go up for insane combos with this. It's a blast. It's an absolute freaking blast, man. It's excellent. So yeah, I really love this game. So final verdict: this game is an absolute banger. And if you can find some way to play it, because it's a damn shame that this game is delisted because of licensing hell. It's a darn shame, but yeah, if you can find a way, I highly recommend it. Especially if you love the Spider-Man lore like I do. It is such a damn great game. It's in my top 5 of Spider-Man games of all time. It really is. Maybe someday, like I'll do like a tweet or whatever, putting my top 5 Spider-Man games, because this game, Edge of Time, I may talk about that later if I get my hands on it. It's Web of Shadows, I've talked about that before. I mean, I did a whole walkthrough on that one, and those are probably my top 3. I put Spider-Man 2018 from Insomniac in there too. So I would have to pick one more. I would have to dig deep and for a 5th one. Or I could make it a top 10 or something, because like top 5 is too short because of how many Spider-Man games that exist. But yeah, so great game. It's a fantastic game, like I just said. But that's all I gotta say on this one. So in a way, Activision kind of paved the road for the whole Spider-Verse concept, at least in terms of the big media. Like I mentioned, believe I mentioned earlier in the video. But that's it for me. What do you guys think? Did you guys play Shattered Dimension? If so, what did you think of it? Let me know down in the comment section below. And if you like this video, hit the like button. And I'll see you on the next one. Until then, have a good one.